Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the modern market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make some and or a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today. We have the majors are down bad, Bitcoin down, ETH down, Solana down. Number two, Trump launches third NFT collection, 360K cards at $99 each, seeking a $35 million raise. And finally, MakerDAO rebrands to Sky. Huge stablecoin DAI will be replaced by new version USDS, with some controversy as part of that change. And we've also got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs, and some discussion on where attention is focused right now and why people are missing some of the alpha. Stay tuned for that. Today, Legendary and Sammy are in the co-host seats and we're ready to get into it. But before we do that, just a reminder, friends, that nothing that we say here is financial advice, because the market is pretty risky and we don't know anything for sure. So please proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, it is Wednesday, the 28th of August, almost September. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
Jim, was great to see the both of you yesterday. Felt really good to have a couple of hours to catch up in person. But you say, it's almost the end of August, almost the start of September. Whale had a post, I think a couple of days ago, saying the year's almost over. What have you achieved so far? And I'm starting to get stressed. I feel like we had this, start of the year, first 4 or 5 months where there was a good momentum, good things to get done. Summer was obviously a bit of a lull. And then I still think September is not going to be the greatest of months. So for me, it's still the time period, maybe October, but more towards the end of the year after the election. And that's like a 6-week window of opportunity where so many things have to happen. And I'm a bit stressed about that.
Interesting. Like, stressed for what reason? You think there's like a bunch of, when people talk about known unknowns that are like things which are causing a little bit of uncertainty, but you know what they are. For example, the US election, like we know that's happening, but we don't know which way it's going to go. Or are you stressed about like unknown unknowns? Like things could even come out of the woodwork, which we aren't predicting yet.
Yeah, more so the unknown unknowns. I think like we all know the election is coming. We all know rate cuts are supposed to come.
Yeah.
We all know there's conflict in the Middle East, but there's the unknown unknowns. Like nobody expected the Telegram founder to be arrested and all the implications that are stemming from this. And I feel like in a period where so many geopolitically relevant events are happening, there's many potential unknown unknowns, and they're rather the ones stressing me out.
So is that related to specifically crypto, or more just like the broader attack on maybe internet companies, freedom of speech? Is that part of the stress, or is it its implications for crypto?
It's both. I mean, maybe stress is the wrong word. Like I'm thinking a lot about that. I'm spending
Sure.
a lot of brain power to think about them, because I can't stress about things that I don't know that could
Yeah.
come into play. But it's more like it's eating up a lot of like brain power. And it's definitely also the implications for free speech, for the internet. And obviously that is going to have an impact on crypto as well.
Yeah, and it has an impact on us. Obviously, it has an impact on everyone in our audience, because if we're going to spend so much time and attention, brain power, and our financial incentives are so tied to like the ability to produce on the internet, I think it is correct to be concerned about some of this stuff. And also, one of the things I've noticed, I don't really actually know where I stand in this, Sam. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Like, one of the things that I've heard, and I'm actually in this bucket as well, of like the way people cope sometimes with the current state of media or the current state of affairs, is by saying like, look, I'm not gonna participate. I'm not gonna watch. I'm not gonna read, because there is overwhelming, and sometimes the traditional media is like kind of annoying in a very simplistic way. And then they choose to opt out. And then I wonder whether, okay, that might be good in the short term for like your mental health in like a very short term way. Like, I'm not being hit over the head with all kinds of different pieces of news that I don't think is helpful. Maybe propaganda on either side as well. But then at the same time, it's like, well, look, if you don't participate, how can you expect things to get better? Because you're just letting other people control the narrative, control the information, and do that type of stuff. So I'm kind of actually leaning more into like, maybe we need to participate more, whether that's politically on the internet, participating in those discussions, rather than just putting our head in the sand and just saying, no, everything's bad, and I just don't want anything to do with it, so that I can be at peace. Sam, do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't know. I mean, given that it's summer, I think a lot of people are probably checked out, and it depends on your risk appetite in terms of how involved you want to be. Because I think a lot of people, what they would have done would be stable up a little bit and then maybe just earn a yield that's pretty low risk. Maybe there's some smart contract risk if you're still on chain with it. But it just allows you to kind of have that respite, sorry. Because I think like, if you think about how full on it was during the blast period, like prior to that, all the brain energy that it took us to kind of get in the trenches, understand what's going on, that takes a lot of energy. And I think at certain points you have to actually take a step back and recharge. And I think that if you're full throttle all the time, you will burn out. So I think for me personally, I've been less active trading and doing things like that over the past few months, and I think I'm happier for it. Like, I'm happy to observe, see how things impact various bits and pieces, and then maybe start to put some more risk on as I feel more confident the market's kind of shifting. And we've spoken about like VC rounds. Like, at a certain point, you could potentially front run those angel rounds again, because everything's a cycle. Once that first kind of big ROI hits on one of those rounds, like, you're going to get a pretty decent return. People are going to FOMO in. The next 2 or 3 will probably do the same thing, and it's like another mini cycle. So I don't know, like, just looking at where the capital's going, kind of funding for various projects, that kind of stuff, I'm just observing from a distance and probably just deciding whether to start putting more risk on and probably paying a lot more attention. Because obviously, if you've got more skin in the game, you're going to pay a lot more attention. You're going to be a lot more in the market. I think for me at this point in time, I'm just kind of a little bit on the fence, waiting to see some of these things play out. And I think that the Telegram founder stuff, I know you've spoken about it the past couple of days, but it's super interesting, just the geopolitical angle with France and the UAE and the news that's come out around that contract for jets today. I think that kind of stuff, it does concern me a little bit, because it does kind of blow out, and that does have trickle down effects on slowing any potential bull run for decentralized assets. So it's definitely one to watch.
Okay. I know what you mean about being like a little bit wait and see in this period of time. And I actually think the more I think about it, it's probably crucial to have periods of time where you're back to assessing, like looking for the next thing. You know, I think being in every single trade is not the way to go. And every now and again, you need to like reassess in order to decide where to put your chips down next time. And I feel like we've been in a little bit of that period, but I do think it's the right time probably to put something on, just waiting for the right thing, I think. Look, we got all kinds of other interesting discussions to have today. As I said, we're going to be talking about like where attention is focused right now and why people are missing some of the alpha, and why some alpha might just be out there in plain sight, as well as all the headlines, which we're going to get to now from the snapshot, which is pinned up top if you're listening on Twitter. And if remember, we're live on video on X and YouTube as well if you're watching in. Let's get to it, starting with the price action, actually. Let's start with the price action. We have Bitcoin down almost 4% in the last 24 hours. At 59k. We've got ETH also down almost 4% at 2.5. I believe it went as low as 2.4 at one point. Solana down 4% too at around $147. Getting into the other headlines, Trump launches his third NFT collection, which is 360k cards at $99 each, seeking a $35 million raise if they were all to sell out. Actually, that can't be right. That's 360. I need to check those numbers in just a minute. And then finally, MakerDAO rebrands to Sky, which is the stablecoin DAI being replaced by a new version. There's been a little bit of controversy about that transition, because allegedly now there's going to be like a, what would you describe it as, like a freezing function. And obviously when people are trying to operate in the decentralized economy, people would hope that there isn't that, because you're trying to get away from the traditional kind of powers, whereas this will kind of input a freezing function if you transfer over. So we'll dive into some of the details there, because DAI is one of the biggest stablecoins, so it's quite important. Some notable sales from around the space: ACK Star Palette selling for 15 ETH. Michael Kozlowski sold Empath to big collector Canvas for 40.44 ETH, and XCopy State of Us selling for 40 ETH. All art focused, huge sales today. Very good to see. I think, sure, it's great to see great Grail NFT kind of profile pictures selling for a lot, but a lot of big art NFT selling well at the moment as well. Legendary, that's the headlines and the price action. What's going on from our NFT marketplace partner, Mintify?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at the main NFTs. It's a bit of a mixed day, I would argue. We have Bored Apes at a 13.1 ETH floor, down 5% over the last 24 hours. We have Pudgy's basically unchanged, 10.5 ETH floor, which is just down 1% over the last day. Mutants, very similar to Pudgy's, down 1%, 2.17 ETH floor. Azuki is actually up a touch, 4.9 ETH floor, getting really close to the 5 ETH mark. Doodles down 3%, 1.82 ETH floor. And then Milady is actually also down 3% at a 3.67 ETH floor. So bit of a mixed day, would say, from the majors, that the Azuki collection is the one looking the best right now.
Interesting stuff. Sammy, are you noticing anything on the NFT side as well?
Yes, I mean the Jira-Sun stuff that minted recently, that's holding up reasonably well. It's up, kind of dropped down to about 0.36, I think, ETH, but it's still way above mint. You've got the Redacted Airways flight from Dubai to Singapore happening in about 3 weeks. So there's a lot of people.
You want to just explain for the people who might not know what that collection is, to the extent that you have the details, like what kind of what's interesting about that collection?
Well, I think it's pretty secretive to start with. I'm not part of that collection. I don't own any of it, but I think that it's backed by Godrilla, so Shan, who's pretty well known in the space from 2021. The P Godrilla, I don't know how to pronounce it, to be honest, but they effectively did really well. I can't remember what the mint price versus the highest floor, but it went to ridiculous. For Jira-Sun, yes, but for the original collection back in 2021, like that rocketed to, like, I want to say tens of ETH in terms of floor price, and it got a pretty good like rep behind it. And so Shan became pretty well known as a builder in the space, and I think he's building out this project, extending it. And the Redacted Airways flight, something that I've seen a lot of people get on, and they're basically getting a sponsored trip between Dubai and Singapore for Token 2049 and Breakpoint. So you've got this utility. Now I don't know if the Jira-Sun collection holders get access to that as well. I don't know the specifics, but that's just something I've observed, and it seems to be, it's probably one of the first collections that's minted recently that's kind of retained that above mint floor price. So they're doing something right.
Yeah, good call out. I actually did mint one of these because I just started talking to Shan not long ago, actually, just a few weeks ago. I was not familiar with the project. They just started chatting, and seems like they built like a load of cool products. So you mentioned like some of the utility now, but they've built like, or been part of the building of like Bullex, that trading, what's it called? The trading bot, which people have been using a lot, like across the timeline, and a bunch of other like legit products as well. It's like, wow, you've been part of building a lot of stuff. I just wasn't familiar. And yeah, I'm showing on the screen for the people who are interested in the Airways thing. It seems kind of fun. The first Web3 Air conference with a major airline partner flying from Dubai to Singapore. The attendees range from top KOLs, founders, VCs, and community members. A Web3 Shark Tank is planned in flight to allow founders to pitch to the angels, KOLs, and VCs with their undivided attention, sponsored by 8 to 9 top brands. The vision behind this to create an experience that people do not forget, and something that's useful for every participant. That sounds pretty fun. Unfortunately, I'm not on that flight. I will be going to Singapore, but sounds pretty fun, right? Legendary, what do you think of this as an alternative form of travel?
Yeah, it's a cool idea. I passed on the offer actually to go on that flight because it would be too much out of my way to go to Dubai and then to go to Singapore. But I do think it's a good idea. My morbid side is thinking, if this were the plane to crash, then basically all of the Web3 KOLs, founders, and VCs are gone like this, and we have to restart the space from zero.
I did think that exact thing. It's basically like the Munich air disaster for Manchester United all over again. I was just like, yeah, please don't go down.
We need Redacted Airways to stay up for the sake of all the NFT communities. Pretty morbid, Legendary. Pretty morbid. But I guess I don't know if there's ever. I mean, I guess at conferences, obviously, you have a high concentration of people all in one place. As soon as you go up in the air, it does add an element of novelty, I think. So yeah, seems pretty cool.
You know
Good
what I've
shout out
also
there,
been
Sam.
thinking?
Go on.
You have first class, you have business class, you have first economy, or the premium economy cabin also has like 2 divisions now. Then you have basic economy, and then you have like all the rows in the back. And we've been creating all these tier lists. These are the top tier games, the top tier KOLs. And I'm basically thinking that whoever's putting together the seating plan is creating the tier list of people who are to be sat in first, business, premium, economy, and in the last row. So depending on where your seat is, maybe it tells you a bit about where the person who arranged that perceives you to be in the space.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. That would be interesting to see. That would be the true tier list is the true seating plan of in the aeroplane. Interesting stuff. Good shout out there, because that minted for about 0.25, went as high as 0.45, and I think now is in the mid 0.3s. So well done to them. It's a tough environment to be doing these kind of sales. Seems to be doing pretty well, and I'm actually looking forward to find out more about them in Singapore. Let's get into today's interesting discussion.
Probably just one other thing on the base side for Mintify. You can see that the Peanuts have popped off. And that's a base collection that kind of like a joke play on punks, but that's up 3x on base. So just worth observing.
Interesting, decent point, because I think that there's just a lot going on base at the moment. Notice from the lending perspective, Aave is doing a little bit of incentives for people participating on base. So yeah, I think base is a good place to be doing stuff. We'll keep an eye on that. Interesting quote for the day. This got me thinking, and this is to do with what we were saying about how attention's focused in particular places. And I think this might be why people are missing out on things, or that alpha's kind of in clear sight without people kind of realizing. There's this quote from Turvo, who tweeted this a few days ago. He said, "News traders used to compete to get headlines seconds before each other to long SEC decisions and such. Now they're all on pump fund waiting for Trump to say something silly." It's just got me thinking, like, what are the people, when the people have kind of got their finger on the trigger, like where are they looking? And I do think there's been this huge transition of people who've moved over to basically playing these games of like, what are people going to say? We're going to go on, either pump fund or prediction markets, and just be like, okay, we're going to watch the speech of someone. Instead of considering what the economic implications are for the market, we're just going to bet on what words they're saying. And it's like, if that's going to absorb a reasonable amount of attention, there could be these opportunities where like good stuff is happening, but because people aren't paying attention anymore, they're just, it's not being acknowledged by the market. And I came up with an example of this. So I'll explain what else he said and then my thought on it. He said, "Anecdotal, but feels like there's some literal truth to this. Collective focus on dog shit has never been higher. So tangible catalysts aren't picked up as efficiently as they used to be, i.e. bullish announcements may take longer to reflect in price action than you'd think." And I kind of like that idea. Like when he said that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense to me. I've got an example here of something that Mando has been talking about for a while. This is the JPL token, the Jupiter Perpetuals Liquidity Provider token. And if you look at this token's price action over the last year, or actually I think since the start of December or so, I'm showing this on screen for the people who are watching in, it's just up only. Like and just think of all the things that have happened in the space since December. We're halfway, we're more than halfway through 2024. This token is up only, and it's kind of in the public for everyone to see. Like I believe it accrues fees from the trading that's taking place on Jupiter, in particular the kind of on the perpetual side of things. And it's like, this is just out there for anyone at any point in time to participate in. And I think there's been very little spoken about it up until recently. And I think at least part of the reason is because everyone's attention has gone to like what someone is going to say in a speech so we can buy the ticker of some random word or predict whether Trump, whether Musk's plane is gonna land in time for the Bitcoin conference so he can join Trump, or is Taylor Swift gonna like? We started tracking people's planes instead of like actually looking at the market and seeing what is fundamentally a good token or not. And it's like this
This
token in
reminds
particular
reminds
got me
me
thinking of this.
This
Sam, what
reminds
do you
me
think?
of the YOLO LP. Like it's one of those things where you're going to have a lot of people losing kind of money or effectively gambling, and you're going to outperform that. And I think the amount, like yesterday we saw, was it within 60 minutes, 110 million was liquidated in the crypto market. So if you think that a portion of that's going to be probably placed on the likes of Jupiter's platform, that the counterparty receiving that benefit is going to be this JLP token. So I think for me, it just, it's a smart play by Mando. And I think seeing that early on just makes sense, especially in a meme coin bit of a cycle where people are probably also leverage trading some of these tokens as well, probably the less volatility, less volatile ones. But it's definitely an interesting play.
Yeah, I like the token. Legendary, what do you think about it though, in terms of like, do you think that there's more of these things out there? Is there anything that you've seen? Do you think there's more of these things out there that are just like fundamentally sound that people are not paying attention to? So specifically because of the attention deficit, which has gone in a different direction, there are these things that exist that are doing pretty great.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, on the JLP token, it's pretty cool, but it's also performance-wise, it's a bit underwhelming if you put it in relationship with other things. It's up 90% over the last year. BTC is up 130% in the same time frame. Solana is up 600%. So I feel like if anything, it's still an overlooked opportunity. I do think that stuff like the YOLO LP that we've been talking about, where you get your probably 100% APY if you manage to get capital in on just a single-sided ETH position, is definitely also overlooked. But that behavior in general, it's not so different from what we've been doing in TradFi. Yes, we're tracking people's planes to gamble whether they're at a conference or not. There's been this famous case of, I don't remember the company, but it's also not important to note that, about one person was basically camping in front of an HQ of a publicly traded company just to watch the cars, who's coming to a meeting, how many people are coming, how many people are leaving, and just watching the HQ to try to get a competitive advantage by, watching a publicly accessible spot to be more educated. Then you have people who are waiting on quarterly reports to see, does a company surpass profit expectations? Does it fail to meet them? And are trading on those news. I feel like we are just simplifying that a bit more and leaning more into the gambling side of things. On the one hand, on the other hand, some people are maybe more educated about that, are actually reasonably thinking about what are the topics that could come up in a conversation between, say, Elon Musk and Trump, and that tampon bet that was made on that space wasn't really unreasonable if you think about the fact that Elon has been posting about that specific act in California that had to do that female care products should also be in male toilets in schools. And it's a topic that Elon wanted to talk about for sure. It's one that Trump definitely has something to say on. So if you just, when we are setting up the news and we would talk about that, we would have to use the word tampon probably to do that. So it's not everything that appears as straight up gambling is just, I'm going to YOLO into this, but actually you can play this in a way where a similar amount of thought goes into the news trading side of things. And I also feel like this is an overlooked opportunity, because I feel like either you're in this like poly market trenches and you're part of that, or you're saying, nah, this is just straight up silly gambling on words and I don't want to participate. You're kind of missing that there might be arbitrage opportunities, there might be pretty good bets to be made, and there might be potential chances to farm an airdrop by participating in that as well.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I definitely take that point. I take the point, which is the other things are legit opportunities for sure. And I guess if you specialize in poly market word game bets, maybe there's something there. And I have actually seen people like doing pretty well, all things considered, when they're playing those type of games. I guess my point was that whilst that exists, I think that there's just more traditional crypto things that are being
100%.
overlooked.
Yeah.
Although your point as well was actually pretty important, which is, okay, fine, this chart, this JLP chart looks amazing because it's up, I don't know, whatever it's up, like
90% over the last year.
90% in the year, but at the same time, all the other major cryptos are like up much more than that. So but that's a fair point as well. Interesting stuff. I am thinking more and more about like how the attention's getting fractured across a variety of different assets. And I'm personally, the thing that I'm doing is like leaning a bit more into DeFi. So like something like this JLP is something I'd be researching. I'm looking a lot at Aave, for example, and figuring out where you can get like the 15 to 20% yields in what might be considered, and nothing is obviously risk off, but what might be considered a risk off fashion. So like the PayPal USD thing, where they're providing around 15% yield if you supply to Drift or Camino, something like that is like, okay, I'm interested in that for a proportion of my stables, which I want to be relatively risk off and just to supply those. So definitely looking at those types of things whilst considering the bigger swings at some point in time, which we'll be taking. Let's get into the headlines today, where we're going to look at maybe just some price action stuff first. The big, I mean, as we said at the top of the show, Bitcoin's down 4%, 59K. ETH is down 4%, 2.5K. Solana's down 4 to 5% at 147. The thing that I noticed though, what is going on here, guys? This is the key question. Majors are down 4% ish. I think they've actually recovered a little bit compared to what they were. But if you look at, let me try to find the correct section here. If you look at how the majors are performing versus meme coins, it's pretty crazy. Like how resilient these meme coins are behaving. I'm just trying to pull up the meme coin category. I'm going to share it on screen for the people who are watching in. I'm on CoinGecko here. Like in the same time where people are like shedding the bed on majors, like down 4%, Doge is down 3%. Pepe's down 4%. Dog with Hat's only down 6%. Bonk is down 5%. Popcat, for some crazy reason, is up 10%. Maybe because I saw a thesis which is like the cat is gonna overtake the dog and is gonna flip whiff in some way. I don't know. I saw that written. Bohm is down 6%. Mew is down 3%. Like this is just pretty crazy numbers in the specific sense, which is usually if we have this big move down in majors, memes will move down much more than this. And it feels like people are not following suit here. So Legendary, first question to you, then I want to hear Sam's thoughts. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, that resilience in memes is interesting. Also, Mogis basically hasn't changed. Like it's at 0% change over the last 24 hours. I feel like you have on the one hand people just swing trading memes, and this hypothesis like shows up more often that yes, memes might dump more when the market goes down, but they also might recover more. And if like this sentiment has been like perpetuated over the timeline, then the question is like, oh, okay, actually, if the majors are down 4%, and my meme coin is going to go down more, but it's going to rebound stronger than the major, then there's no point in selling out of it. And if people don't sell out of it and actually buy more of it and are speculating on a stronger rebound, then you will have this situation where you have a dump in majors that is not really affecting meme coins to the same extent on the one hand. On the other hand, it's like maybe also like a survivor bias, because you have meme coins that's been interesting a couple days ago, or that are interesting right now, like dogs and the whole Reddit coin meta that's kind of picking up again, who are winning and then they're dumping massively and not recovering. And that swing trading period might, go well for 6, 7, a dozen of these corrections and then rebounds until like momentum and sentiment is shifting to something else, and it just won't follow that pattern forever. So I do think that for the short or midterm, it can be an interesting strategy to kind of try to swing trade meme coins. And I know a couple of people who've done that pretty successfully, but I also wouldn't say or wouldn't make the argument that this will work forever in that fashion. But for the time being, I think this is exactly the case. People know they're going to rebound stronger, so they're not too fussed about selling off in a dump of the majors.
I mean, yeah, I know what you mean. My only reservation, well, maybe it's not a reservation, but the conclusion I'm taking away from it is I think we're reaching a point or a price point in some of these meme coins, maybe not all of them, but in some of them where it's like there's no willing sellers anymore at these prices. Like I think WIF at some point got to as low as 1.2 ish, or 1.25, and it kind of bounced off there. Maybe even as low as 1.1. And it just feels like people are like, no less than this. It feels like the sellers are exhausted, even if the other markets are going to go down, unless Bitcoin's going to go back to 50K and ETH is going to go back to 2.1 or something. It feels like people are happy with their memes at these valuations. That's my observation from this chart. And I've just pulled up the chart. Remember, my thesis, or one of my theses for these memes is that every new high is lower than the previous one. Every low is a little bit lower. And actually, if you look at this chart on the one, maybe let's do the 3-month chart instead. It feels like maybe for the first time in a while, the lows are not getting lower, which also makes me start to think, and I'm not a huge chartist person or, a TA guy, but it's starting to feel like, look, when it did dip down to 118, the next dip down was to like 138. This dip down has been to maybe 156. So it starts to feel like, do you know what? We don't want to go as low as before. That was just way too underpriced, and we're not interested in going that much lower again. Sam, what are your thoughts on this? I see Funky with his hand raised. Would love to hear his thoughts. And I don't know if you're available, Rahim. I see you in the audience. You are resident meme connoisseur. I'm going to invite you to speak if you're available. Would love to hear your thoughts. Sam first, then Funky.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I definitely agree with you that at certain prices where ETH and Bitcoin are, I don't think meme coin traders are overly concerned, because the returns they get within the meme coin trenches are probably so significant that rotating that into Bitcoin or ETH, they're probably not going to make the returns. I think that if you look at how the market's probably structurally changed as well, you've got the institutions which are focused on Bitcoin and ETH. You've got retail traders that are probably post the Kobe article, probably sick of the high FD, low float kind of meta, switched into meme coins where it's kind of like fair launch. Everyone's kind of making money. Everyone knows that it's like the purest form of gambling. So I do think that there is an element of just different market participants, and I don't think they'll get spooked too much about like a 10 or 20% swing in Bitcoin or ETH. But I do agree that once it hits a certain target, like I think you mentioned 50K as a reasonable thing. If it drops below that, there will be some people that get a little bit spooked and will sell. And we might see some lower lows. But I think for me at this point in time, meme coin traders are in their trenches, institutions are in theirs. I think it's a little bit separate.
Okay. I think that's fair. We've got Rahim with us as well. Funky, you're going to go first, and then we're going to throw to Rahim. Funky, welcome to the stage, my friend. What are your thoughts?
GM, everyone. Yeah, Legendary kind of covered it. I'm glad that Raheem's going to come up here to speak about it, because I was just going to reiterate some of the points he's made previously on the show. But in the same breath, I just want to say, the longer this cycle goes on, the more I'm convinced. I'm going to simplify it for everybody. Not financial advice, of course. Buy Bitcoin. To quote my write-in candidate for the president of the United States, there is no second best.
Fair enough. Simple, sweet, and memorable, Funky. Thank you for that position. Rahim, what are your thoughts? I know you are not only buying Bitcoin. Welcome to the stage, my friend. What are your thoughts on this kind of perspective that I gave on meme coins and how they're just not reacting that badly when compared with the majors right now?
GM, everybody. Well, I have like a slightly different take on this, and it's because like I was looking at like some of the Pepe charts yesterday. Pepe is something I'm heavily invested in, so I feel like I keep a bit more up to date with it. When a day before yesterday we were at 61K, Pepe was lingering around 89, 90, and then it dropped down to 85. However, a month ago when we were at 61 BTC, Pepe was over the decimal number, so it was like way higher and stuff. So it was over that 0.10 value and stuff. So like me and a bunch of people, we were having just this thesis that I feel like meme coins have dumped a bit more if you compare it to the last month. I mean, if you compare data from like a month or two ago, you'd see like stuff, Pepe and like Mog and a bunch of these things are significantly down. Like Pepe is down more than It's almost down 50% from its all-time high, which was back in March, I believe. So I feel like the week before the big dump that we had, Pepe and a lot of these meme coins, like, WIF went down to like 1.3, 1.4. I think a lot of these coins took a massive hit. And I think that's why we see a not big of a crash when you're seeing Bitcoin and ETH go down by 3%. That's the thesis I would put, because like personally, this doesn't make sense to me. I don't think historically we've seen such a small drop in like these meme coins. And I think considering we're just looking at like this 24-hour data, I just feel like it just feels too unrealistic to me that memes are showing so much support all of a sudden.
So just to clarify, Ryan, maybe a follow-up question. It's unrealistic in what sense? In the sense that like if there had been more sellers, they would have been flushed out in that previous downturn, which was a bit more aggressive. Is that what you mean?
Yes, that's what I mean. I do think we could see a bit more drop. I'm banking on it. Actually, I've placed some like limit orders with that thesis. However, I think like the massive drop we've had, where a lot of these coins dumped like 15-20%, what, like a couple of weeks ago and stuff, that kind of changed the price action for a lot of these meme coins, which is why this showing a bit more stability compared to majors. But like I wouldn't form a very long-term thesis unless we have some time period to prove this, because it just seems so arbitrary. To your point, why you brought up this conversation, that I just think all of a sudden memes are showing this insane strength. Just doesn't make sense. Like a week ago, this wasn't the same case.
Yeah, I appreciate the kind of additional insight. I think it is actually giving me more confidence in that thought that like these got aggressively battered not so long ago. And as you said, from like all-time highs, they're like very, very far down. So could just be like exhausted sellers or sellers that are no longer there because they're already, if they were going to go, then they're already gone. So I don't know. I think if majors keep going down, then yes, they'll move down in line, but maybe not as aggressively as before. That seems to be what's happening as we speak. Appreciate your insight as always, Rahim. Meme connoisseur as always. Let's maybe, unless we've got anything else to say on the memes versus, I think that was the most important point on price action actually. Yes, the majors are down, but like the fact that the rest of the market was just down in the same way, I thought was very interesting today. Let's get into a couple of the other headlines. The first one being the Trump third collection. We can deal with this in about 10 minutes or so. We've got 360K cards at $99 each, which is around a potential $35 million raise. I got that number from Tyler's quote, so I'm pretty sure he would be correct. They had this kind of interesting mechanic where, look, what are you trying to buy? Legendary. If you scroll down on the screen, oh no, actually, you've got some bits there. Let me just read those out. So you've got a gala dinner with President Trump. You've got Trump limited edition sneakers. You've got Trump physical cards. You've got a 1-of-1 Trump NFT and more. If you buy 5, you get a gold sneaker package. If you buy 1 to 4, you just get the digital cards. If you buy 9, you get 2 gold sneaker package plus like a bunch of other stuff. There's just like, there's so many different deals on offer. Like this is like one of the most well thought out, structured offerings that's ever come to market. Like these guys, whether you like him or hate him, like they're really thinking about their go-to-market strategy and how to get people to buy more than one. It's probably more thought out than other people that I've seen. You buy 15 and you get a physical card plus a platinum limited edition sneaker. Like, and then there's things. If you buy 75, you get dinner with President Trump. And I believe that's 1 VIP ticket for you to attend President Trump's gala dinner, not one-on-one, but like with a bunch of other people. If you buy 250, you get 2 ultra VIP dinners plus 2 VIP cocktails tickets with President Trump. So those 2 things are distinguished from each other. Legendary. What do you think here? The Trump family, well, Trump himself and the Trump family seem to be making increasingly noise about crypto. This is his 3rd foray into NFTs. Is this a great launch, or are we getting tired of him extracting funds from the crypto community?
So a couple of thoughts of that. Actually, it's a well thought out collection with quite a few additional bits that I want to mention that nobody's been really talking about. But just adding to the 75 and 250 card package, if you buy with fiat, you cannot buy more with credit card, not more than 75 cards at once. If you buy with crypto and only with crypto, you can buy 250 cards at once to basically get the package on the right side of the screen that we're sharing. And if you do that, it also comes with a bonus 1-of-1 Trump Ordinal NFT, how they are referencing it. So they've been thinking about quite a few things, but one of the most interesting aspects, if you go to the FAQ, which is quite extensive, there's also going to be digital physical cards, there's going to be 1-of-1 parallel cards, but then there's this question, can I transfer my cards immediately? And they're saying we're only looking for serious Trump collectors to join this community. All trading cards will be non-transferable until January 31st, 2025. Your Trump digital trading card token is a token of true collectorship designed for the most dedicated enthusiasts. By making the card non-tradable, it ensures that your acquisition is more than a transaction. It's an inscription of your commitment to the Trump collector community. This exclusivity period highlights the significance of your card as a genuine collectible, reflecting the spirit of a true Trump card collector. And we've obviously seen non-transferable items in the NFT space before, but A, I like that they implemented this, and B, I very much like the way how they worded this. It's actually, it's a gift to you as a passionate collector that we made it non-transferable. But it also makes sense from a part of a media strategy, because the last thing that you want pre-election is those cards to dump on the open market, and then news outlets picking up on that and being like, oh, Trump collection is down 95% just ahead, 3 weeks ahead of the election, a month ahead of the election. That is not a good look. So it makes a lot of sense to make that non-transferable until after the election, well after the election.
Interesting stuff. Thanks for that additional context, kind of diving into the FAQs there. Sam, on the point of, look, we get they're masters of coming to market. We understand that point. Lots of people will get excited about this type of thing. There's all kinds of different offerings for different people. There's physicals involved. There's IRL experiences, like across the board, interesting stuff. Bigger question for me, how I'm split on this, and I wonder what your take is. On the one hand, I actually think it's really unfair when people say to other people that they're extracting value just when they're bringing a product to market. Like, look, people are building a product to market, they're pricing it however they want to price it, and then it's up to the market to decide if they want the thing. Like, if you want to pay $100, and if tens of thousands of people want to pay $100, then that's not extracting value from the market. That's just coming up with a product and selling it to people, in the same way that you don't accuse, I don't know, an artist charging $100 for a music attendance at a concert. You're not extracting value from your fans. You're providing something that they want, and they're very, very happy to pay it. So on some level, I think that. On the other hand, I am just getting a little bit, I'm getting a little bit skeptical of the Trump family's conversations about crypto, whether it's the extended family kind of teasing crypto and now creating a Telegram and saying they're going to build stuff, and these random coins that have been going up and down. And then just the fact that they're so pro, but then there's always a product at the back of it. Like, if you're pro crypto, do you necessarily need, especially when you're on in the presidential kind of, you're on the presidential stage, is it right to be also kind of monetizing it at the same time? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, it's to your point about value. I mean, it is a value exchange. So I just want to address that first. And I completely agree with you. Like, the first thing I look at when I look at those offers, I'm like, is it worth the money? Like, will I pay 25 grand to have a VIP dinner with him? Yes, some people would pay that because that's getting access, and people pay for meetings. I think we saw that app recently where people would pay for people's time. And he values his time at that amount. And there's various other benefits that you get. So it's not a value extraction. I think it is a value exchange. On the point around like the types of crypto related products that he's building, it's not really innovative. It's a little bit disappointing. It's just the same thing rehashed over and over again. And what I was hoping that he would do with because he made an announcement recently, or his family made an announcement recently about a revolutionary crypto something. People thought it might be a meme coin. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know if it's been announced what it's going to be yet. I haven't really followed it too closely, but what I was hoping it was going to be is he's from real estate. Like his father was from real estate. Like, why not do some sort of RWA tokenization platform, try and actually push the boundaries of what's possible? That to me is something where I think we as like a Web3 kind of native community would be like, okay, well, he's coming into our neck of the woods, trying to add value to this specific area rather than doing this kind of, it does feel like a cash grab because he is taking our crypto and giving other kind of value in return, but it's not necessarily something that adds value to the ecosystem as a whole. And that's kind of where I'm hoping he eventually does go with it, some sort of RWA tokenization platform.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how that would certainly make sense for them as a family. Interesting take. Funky, your hand is raised. What's your take on this offering?
So shout out to the fellow 40-somethings in the audience. It strikes me as very QVC in terms of the way that they package the deal together. You know, like, oh, if you get to this level, we're going to throw in this as a bonus. Call now. But beyond that, and you guys might not even get that reference for like televised products from back in the day. But the thing that I really am wondering about is the promise of exchange for time. Like if you're going to get to X level, you're going to get to go to this gala dinner and so on and so forth. In the United States, anything like this, especially around election time, is highly regulated. If you write a check to somebody for somebody's political campaign to go to a dinner or something like that, there is a lot that goes into this. And I wonder how much they're skirting this with this kind of offering and whether or not it's going to catch up to them at any point. Because to your earlier point, the mainstream media loves to just pounce on anything that Trump does, right? Like, and as Legendary pointed out, if this collection were to be released and the price dumps before the election, it would have severe negative ramifications for his election. So I'm really curious about whether or not this is going to come back to bite him and his campaign in the butt over the fact that they're doing something outside the typical regulations that you find around political fundraising.
It's actually the first question that they tackle in the FAQ. And they're saying, is any of the money from this collection going to the Donald J. Trump campaign for president? Capital letters, no, these digital trading cards are not political and have nothing to do with any political campaign. NFT Int LLC is not owned, managed, or controlled by Donald J. Trump, the Trump Organization, CIC Digital LLC, or any of the respective principals or affiliates. NFT Int LLC uses Donald J. Trump's name, likeness, and image on the paid license from CIC Digital LLC, which license may be terminated or revoked according to its terms. So they've been thinking about that, but your point, Funky, nonetheless stands because the optics of this, especially if there's like the gala dinner, the cocktail reception, and all the other things that typically would be very regulated and are happening in this critical pre-election period, the public reception of that still might be different and definitely something that potentially could be picked up by media outlets. And one quick separate point that I wanted to make, because we spoke about the exchange, is it worth your time? There's been obviously very public on the timeline that ThreadGuy has purchased the 250 card package for a potential interview with Trump, which also has a polymarket bet that reads, will ThreadGuy interview Trump before October? And I feel like this bet has one of the weirdest resolutions I've seen. It basically says the rules are this market will resolve to yes if footage of Donald Trump answering at least one question asked by ThreadGuy is released by September 30th. So my reading of this is, if ThreadGuy is at this dinner and is on video and asks Trump, can I take a picture with you, sir? And he says yes, and he posts that clip, that in my opinion would already count according to these rules. Currently 14K, 15K almost being bet on this. 1 hour ago it was 12K, so it's definitely capturing some interest. And the chances for it to resolve as a yes are currently at 11%.
Dude, that's a good yes. Like at 10% chance currently, like because if you were to rephrase that, and we don't want to spend too long on this, but I guess this is to the point of these betting questions that are posed. The question doesn't matter. It's about how does the bet get resolved and the language used. So what does how do you define each aspect of that sentence? And when someone says interview, if what they really mean is ask a question to, then it's like, well, suddenly that becomes a lot easier than literally sitting down with a whole media team in a room with like an hour booked out with a whole set of with hours of footage to be uploaded to Twitter. Like that's not what a yes means in this instance, because that's not how it's been defined. So the definition is far more important than the kind of headline bet. Very, very interesting call out, Legendary. We want to move on because we've only got a few minutes left. We've got one headline to bring to your attention, but Sensei, want to give you a chance to kind of come in on this and wrap this topic up for us. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you for having me here. I've apparently a frequent guest now.
Yes.
But two things. First of all, there was previously a dinner like this for Trump card holders, which was literally a moderated dinner where Trump basically had like almost timed 2 minutes of conversation per dinner guest. So there's like a scheme of how this like happens. I don't know if it's going to be the same thing now, but two, I wouldn't be hopeful of this like evolving into some RWA project or something like this. I think Legendary spoke about this. I think this is just a cash grab because his kids have some DeFi initiative they're like trying to launch. They have like a Telegram and a Twitter account for this, and they keep posting about this, how like financial system is corrupt and we have to like recapture finance through decentralized means, and like mentioning their father. So I think he's like attacking the crypto industry. I don't mean in a hostile way, just like approaching crypto industry from different directions, and maybe some of them are more substantial than others, and this is definitely not a substantial one. He just has rails that he established already and he's using them.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a fair perspective. I think you're not the only person who's kind of raising some questions now and being a little bit skeptical as to why people are so pro cryptos. I think most people would be pro crypto if you can keep doing raises over and over again for like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. So let's see what protocol or platform they intend to launch together. I'm sure we'll find out relatively soon, and we will report on it when they do. We only have a few minutes left for the show. Let's hit the Web3 Roundup to get you up to speed with everything else that's been happening in the space in the past 24 hours. And then I want to just quickly bring to you the final headline so you know what's going on there. Number one, Vitalik reveals his Ethereum Foundation's salary of $135K per year, and that if he did not believe in ETH as a store of value, he would not hold 90% of his net worth in it. I enjoyed that statement from Vitalik. Didn't know his salary and didn't know that he held 90% of his net worth in ETH. So that's interesting info. Number two, Binance were reported to have seized all funds from Palestinians as per request of Israel defense sources. A bit more context there. That was an accusation made by CEO of Bitcoin P2P marketplace No One's. Binance responded and they said that only a small number of user accounts related to illegal funds will be banned from trading. So I think that's a standard response when it comes to illegal funds. Probably have to dive in more to know what's really going on. Next story, Baseline Markets to launch unruggable meme coin on Blast with prominent whale Machi. Definitely want to just check that out. I haven't seen the full details there, but I think that'll be interesting. Solana published thread on PayPal stablecoin passing $1 billion market cap. We've spoken about that a lot and how the incentives are working. Mintify announces Ordinals marketplace coming next week with data and analytics not currently available anywhere else. Obviously, as our NFT marketplace partner, we're very excited for them to be entering the Ordinals game. On the media side, Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce signed a $100 million deal with Amazon for the podcast New Heights. Keep creating content, friends. That is the goal. And finally, crypto developers estimated to be less than $8,000. I didn't know this, but apparently there are 7,661 full-time developers in crypto at the moment. That is not a lot. Final headline for today is the rebranding of Maker to Sky. Sky is the upgraded token version of MakerDAO. The Sky token is the upgraded version of Maker and the governance token of the Sky ecosystem. Each Maker can be upgraded to 24,000 Sky. So that's like a kind of like a stock split of the Maker token. And USDS is the Sky dollar, and that's the upgraded version of DAI. The reason why there's a bit of controversy about this is because there seems to be a freezing function which has been applied to USDS. And bear in mind, DAI is one of the most popular stable coins. One of the reasons people use stable coins is to kind of, or one of the reasons people use crypto is to kind of exit the traditional financial system. USDC has freezing functions. DAI was meant to be like a decentralized version that, you know, cannot be stopped. But USDS seems to have that function kind of placed into it. And there's a few kind of rewards available for people who want to participate straight away and get involved. Legendary, a quick take from you on this. How significant is it that Maker have kind of rebranded and they're changing DAI to USDS?
Yeah, timing is interesting. Definitely seen more and more Maker criticism surfacing. Also, we talked about PayPal's PYUSD and their incentivized farming that led to, as we reported in the Roundup, to more than $1 billion in market cap. And now Sky will offer double yields, double what was the DAI savings rate, which currently sits at 6% for the first month. So while they haven't mentioned a number, just doing that math, it would be a 12% APY. So it's interesting that they come out at this time while PYUSD is skyrocketing. Obviously, a rebranding like this has to be planned for a longer amount of time, but definitely the incentive structure seems a bit similar to what we've seen with PYUSD, and they probably don't like the threat of having another stable coin that's growing rapidly and has the potential to take over.
We have been saying the stablecoin market is going to get very aggressive soon, I think. And I think we could move into quite a nice space where there's a lot of incentives just for holding stables from relatively reputable people as well. So hopefully that's the direction we move in, where we get an opportunity to hold relatively risk-off assets, achieving a pretty decent yield because they're all trying to get a stranglehold where they're decent market share of the stablecoin market, which is so lucrative. But look, we've run out of time. We've gone a little bit over today. Appreciate guys for listening in. Hope that was helpful as always. Thank you so much to my legendary co-host, Legendary, and Sammy. We do this every day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour. We're live on X. We're live on YouTube. We upload to Spotify and Apple Podcasts too. Hope you have a wonderful day. We will see you again tomorrow. Take care and goodbye. Bye-bye.